I'm going to take a bit of a break from animation, and I'm going to do a little bit of texturing because I think it's overdue for this character now, because I've kind of, I guess you could say, finalized her design, so to speak. I was tempted to do more changes, but I was like, nah, that's ridiculous. So I'm going to do some unwrapping, and I might even update her hair, because I think it's due for an update in terms of texturing, and get this into Substance, and then yeah, just discuss ideas, things that are changing, and yeah, plans for the future, because it's already it's already February. How crazy is that? Um, so let's go ahead and start with a little bit of texturing, a little bit of UV unwrapping, because these guys need some fresh UVs. And you can see here that let's see, let's just turn off the preview there. So if I go to tap on that UV, oh, actually unwrapped it. I actually unwrapped it. Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining. So I've got this unwrapped, which is good for me. I didn't even I forgot that I did it. I think I might optimize this a little bit though. I reckon I can optimize that a little bit. Thank you. Let's go ahead and simplify those UVs. So, yeah, I think this is due for a new UV map. And it just gives you a bit of a reveal of how this model is done and how it's kind of different to even just my tutorials. Because it's stylized, so you've got to take a stylized approach to something sometimes. Where is that icon? That's interesting. Oh, there we go. All right, hold on. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions as I go through this stuff. What I'm doing, anything in general as well. Feel free. But yeah, pretty chill sesh today. Pretty fun sesh as well, because yeah, I think I'll be able to stay on a little bit longer today as well. Maybe another half hour, maybe another hour. We'll see how we go. Because yeah, I have gone back to the freelance life. Yeah, I want to bring the freckles back, because the texture's a bit out of whack, so I need to bring them back a little bit. So I'm gonna do some texturing inside of Substance for that. And I like the freckles. It's meant to be. She's meant to have freckles. Stylized freckles. It's a big important thing. Um, let's go ahead and unwrap that. That looks a bit better. Yep, totally. So I'm gonna rotate that. Let's just do that again. Rotate, 19. Oops, 80. Rotate 180. There we go. That's better. I think I can get away with. Yeah, that's a decent map. Her eyes are nice and clean. That's good to see. So I'm just wondering where I should get away with. I actually think I can get away with just joining those together as well. Let's just mark that seam. Or clean it. Sorry, clear it. Trying to optimize the map. Yeah, a lot of dead space in there. Actually, no, fuck it. The way it was, it's fine. So yeah, I think that's good enough. Yeah, that's fine. And I'll probably render this out at a higher texture map inside of Substance, just to scale that down just a little bit. Sometimes Substance gets a bit tricky, a little bit picky about those edges, especially when it comes to UDIMs, if you're going to use UDIMs. What are we doing today? Yeah, I'm texturing a little bit today. I'm going to be doing a little bit of texturing. It's all good, dude. Got quite a few little spammers here today as well. Crazy, man. Yeah, so today I'm just going to be adding some texture to this character's face because it's overdue. And since I'm happy with now the model how it works, it's high time that she gets a bit of a makeover. So I'm going to add a little bit of texturing to her face, give her a bit more volume. Because she has a flat design, I also want to give a little bit of contouring in the face. So I'm going to do that. Let's apply her mirror and unwrap those. That's fine. Same with those. Let's go ahead and just unwrap those. I think I could probably join those together as well. There we go. That's better. Yeah, but I also want to talk about what's going on for the next couple of months. So I have some big plans ahead with regard to content. So one of the big things I want to talk about is what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of months with YouTube tutorials. And I'm pretty excited about it because I'm finally going to start talking about animation. So animation being everything. Premise behind Black Curtain, I'll tell you in a second. But basically, it's a sci-fi adventure that takes place between Earth and another planet. This character here, Evie, is... Actually, I'll just tell you now. Evie is a character who lives on this other planet. And in the story, they are shut off from Earth. So they don't know how to get back. They're blocked by a thing called... well, it's basically a gate that lets you go back to Earth. They've been blocked off indefinitely under the assumption that something happened on Earth, like a meteorite strike or something that completely destroyed the planet almost from their perspective. And what this character does, she figures out a way to get back, how to reopen that gate, and shenanigans ensue, basically, if you want to call it, say anything. That's how the plot of the story goes. So yeah, it's a pretty fun story in my opinion. I've been thinking about this since uni days. Basically, I've been planning this thing since uni days. I've already done a version of the story for my graduate film in like 2014, but it's evolved since then. Essentially, what the fuck? Sorry, just trying to unwrap this thing. But that's the premise of the story. But for Black Curtain, for the YouTube channel, the plan is to really focus on animation for the next, like, I would say 6 months. Probably all about animation on and off. There'll be little bits in here, pieces here and there on like random tutorials, random content, but I'm also going to be focusing primarily on animation. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Because I think there's a lot of untapped coolness in that regard. That's my big plan, is to really focus on animation this year. And I think I can offer a unique perspective on that as well. So that's going to be really interesting in my opinion. Apart from that, I'm going to try and get some more out there content as well. So stuff like interviews, if I can. With industry professionals, people talk about the state of the industry, where they come from, what they do, and offer a bit of enlightenment in that regard. Something a bit different to what you'd expect, though. I won't go into details, but I want to try and make something very interesting in that regard. And then at the same time, yeah, keep making short films and all that sort of stuff. So the reason I bring this up is because I recently just wrapped up my job full-time. I've gone back to freelancing. I will still be working with that company just on a freelance basis to help me develop my own path. The other thing as well is I haven't updated my showreel since 2020. So one of the reasons I'm doing animation for my next big thing is because I really want to update my showreel, and I got nothing. I've got nothing new and worthwhile to show. So that's the problem with like certain jobs. You can't really generate a decent showreel from it if the projects don't have, like, they might be fun and interesting, but they might not be holistic enough to actually put into a showreel. So that's another big thing that I want to change. So I want to really improve my showreel and put something new together. So that's another big thing about that. So looking forward to doing that too. So hopefully by the end of 2020, I'll have a short film done, or two, hopefully. I'll have a showreel to show for it, and you'll have out of me doing that sort of stuff, you'll have some really kick-ass animation tutorial content that you can learn to animate to. So that's the big plans for 2022. I was going to make a separate video for this, but I was like, nah, fuck that. Let's just jump straight into the animation stuff when I get the chance to record it. So I'll probably record that this week, the first episode of the year of animation, I guess you can call it. So it'll be an ongoing thing. There won't be a separate series for each thing. It'll be just animation tutorials, straight up. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, that's the plan. I hope you guys are excited, because I'm pretty keen. I'm pretty excited about it myself. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm just unwrapping things. Re-unwrapping things would be the best way of putting it. Because there's so much to do. So yeah, just gonna be re-texturing the character today. Making her look really nice, really cool. Get it up to scratch, because the new face that I added has changed the way that her body will be. So let's go ahead and do that. Eventually this will all be part of one texture as well, so that also helps. So for anyone who doesn't know what I'm doing, this is called UV mapping. This is where you prepare the body or the mesh for texturing inside of Blender or inside of another software like Substance Painter. So we'll be jumping into Substance Painter in a second. So this is really important stage when it comes to giving the character like a more polished look. So if you're into texturing, this is like the first port of call you got to do. You got to like get this stuff up to scratch before you can start to texture things out. So I'm just dividing everything into their own little chunks, so to speak. So hello, good morning, welcome. So that's what I'm going to do today. I was going to do some animation, but I need to plan out the shot, and I haven't had time to do that. So I'm probably going to do that in my own time. Start to animate the next shot, get things in order. I also want to spend some time fixing up the previous scenes. So because I changed her rig, some of the animation files need to be updated, and that takes time. So I'm going to spend some time today doing that as well. Yeah, these for the texture for the body, I'll probably end up using, because it's UDIMs. I'm gonna be using probably 2024 for each texture. 2028. Sorry, no, 2048. By 2048 on the body, and for the face, I'll probably use a 4K texture. That's the plan, at least. Probably less even on the hand on certain areas, because for instance, the hands probably could use their own fucking texture. Actually, I might actually put that at their own texture map. Yeah, so that's the plan. Yeah, so body probably 2048 by 2048, and then for the face, it might be 4K, and then for the hands, it'll be its own UV map. And that will be 2048 by 2048, because I want to actually add, I know it's weird, but because there's so little space to texture fingernails on, you kind of need to actually pump up the UV map to give its own, sort of map. So that's what I'm going to do here. So the way it will work, if I go back to here, let's go back to that. So this is how it's laid out at the moment. So face, hand, body, legs, and I'll give them their own texture as well, their own material, so they will all work together in unison without me worrying about having to change the colors and stuff on that. Good morning. Yeah, big thing to worry about though, make sure you don't screw up, is you got to make sure that the UVs don't overlap between UDIMs, so keeping it nice and clean. So there we go. That should be fine. That's the eyelashes. That's cool there. So between these body meshes here, they should have their own material. So let's just get rid of that one. You can see the texture's a bit screwed up there. That's fine. Hair. Let's have a look and see how this is. We can fix this up massively. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, Kelly Johnson. Oh, this is not a new character. This is Evie, the same character as always, just for the films. So I've modified her a little bit though. Yeah, you do have to be conscious of camera angles with this character, because at certain angles she looks a bit flat, like intentionally flat, but like this angle here, for instance, her face looks a little bit out of proportion. So depending on how you go about it, I have a few rules in my head. So front 3/4 would be around there, and then side would be like something like that. I like to try and limit my shots to have those sort of angles, and anything underneath the neck, I'm gonna make sure that there's a nice shadow to frame her. That's my go-to rules, I guess you can say. For this hair, let's clean this up. This looks like shit. So we can probably use a plugin called UV Squares to fix this up. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's just make sure that everything's. Let's just turn off shading for now. Okay, so yeah, I can see what I've done. Sometimes you forget what you've done with the setup. So I might actually reduce this. I might actually make the loop go around like so. With this one, I can like. All right. So with this face, not particularly, I can't give you this face exactly, but wait a week or two, hopefully a week or two, and I will be uploading onto my Patreon a series of character rigs in the style of this stuff. So simple character rigs that can be used for animation study. I will be uploading not her face specifically, but something very similar that's more generalized. So yes, it will happen, but it won't be specifically this face. That's the plan. I'll have more to announce about that in the future, but for now, this particular face will not be available because it's for my film, so I don't want to share it, and things get a bit tricky in that regard, especially with Rule 34 and all that jazz. So I want to try and avoid that for now. Put it that way. All right, cool. So let's just clear that seam and then bring that back. There we go. So let's unwrap this again. Actually, I might add another loop there. And clear this seam. Bring this one back. Mark seam. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm just trying to simplify the seams so I can do an unwrap that makes sense. What the fuck? Thank you for the super chat. I hope that is that's a lot. Thank you very much. I didn't expect to see that. Much appreciated. If that's the right USD that I'm thinking of, but yeah, much appreciated. Yeah, that's a surprise. Thank you very much. So, well, thank you as well. Thank you for watching. So, where was I? Yeah. So with the future, that's the big thing as well, is that with animation and the rigs, I want them to be really, really cool. I want them to be unique and different. We are looking at the hair for this character. You'll see once I unwrap it. I'm just about to unwrap it now. I'm just trying to clean it up a little bit. So we're looking at this character. Just to make it clear for those who just joined. Thank you for joining, by the way. I'm preparing this character for texturing inside of Substance Painter. So you can see here now, what essentially we have here is a grid, and we can clean that up using this plugin called UV Squares, and that will turn it into a nice clean grid. So boom, nice square grid, which is awesome. Obviously, I'll have to check out and see what that looks like as a grid. So let's just go ahead and gridify these two things. These parts here are a bit trickier to grid up because they're not a grid. So we're going to keep them as is because you don't even see them anyway. So that's fine. So let's just put those somewhere here. Yeah, I'm retexturing the character, so I want to get this looking nice and clean, and hopefully this will be the last time I have to texture her ever again, at least with this episode. As she goes into different environments, she'll have different features and stuff, so we'll see what happens there. But let's just add a new material. Let's just see what the material looks like here at the moment. It's going to add a grid. Check a texture. And I'm just going to check out the material. Let's just go ahead and have a look. So you can see how clean that texture, that UV is now. If we just add a mapping node. Where's the mapping node? Oh, wrong one. I want, my bad. Sorry, I'm just getting all mixed up. Let's just go ahead and tab it. There we go. Texture coordinate node. That's what I want. UV. And let's just have a look and see what this looks like once I unwrap this properly. So the UV editor, let's go back in, and I want to change that. All right, cool. So we know that is looking a little bit stretched. So let's see what we can do. There we go. That looks better. There, that looks better. Sweet. So that's what I want. Something like that. And if I go back to the mapping node, let's just bring back that as a another window. Back to the shader. Scale that up. Just so you can see the actual distortion. So you can see here that the UVs are a little bit distorted, but that's not really the point in this one. In this case, it's it should be fine. Yeah, there we go. That looks cool. Much nicer. And for the back, I'm not sure what this is for. Actually, oops, wrong one. It's for the bottom. So the bottom is alright. I don't have to worry about too much about the bottom. The bottom will be fine. Let's just put that there because we've got the ponytail to worry about as well. And these can kind of just sit there and look pretty. Where's the rest of those UVs? So for these, let's go ahead and fix those up. So you can see here that they're kind of the same sort of deal. And it would be good to clean those up as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And there's an easy way to do that, I think, at least with the tips of these hairs here. And that would be to basically unwrap these ends there, separate those out, and we'll have a little bit of a little nook at the end, but it'll be fine. Add some seams. Let's just isolate that a little bit. Yeah, I have actually. Very brief, mildly though. Nothing like what you would get from an anime shader, for instance. But I've attempted to adjust the normals to be a bit smoother. Um, I've done a bunch of different methods for that, but I found that the performance hit was too great when you're working in the viewport. So it depends. So if I don't need to do it, then I'm not going to bother. Otherwise, yeah. For the face, I have sort of smoothed out the normals a little bit. Let's mark those seams. And for this one, it's just a matter of at the ends. This is where it would look a little bit weird, but we're going to try and do it anyway. Let's go ahead and actually let's just add a loop. Let's just bevel this a little bit. Add a loop there, and let's just drag it all the way down the end and wrap that mark seam. So what I'm trying to do is basically create that grid shape again. Let's go ahead and unwrap at least the hair here. That looks a lot nicer. Let's go ahead and grid shape that. There we go, it looks a lot nicer now. And you can see why I'm trying to do this, by the way. I hope you can tell. Is that I'm trying to get the direction of this to look. Let's try and make sure this is in the right direction first. I'm trying to get the direction of all the hair to be in the same. Oh, cheers. Try into the same direction. So once I build the strands of the hair inside of substance, it's going to be all correct. So that's what I'm doing here. So yeah, taking a bit of a breather today to really go through and polish up the character a little bit. That's been a little bit neglected since I made the change in the model. Let's go ahead and grid shape that. Oops, it's kind of screwed that one up a little bit. Let's see why it's done that. It's because it hasn't got that. Okay, I see. So that makes sense. Why hasn't that worked out? Oh, because I haven't unwrapped it. My bad. Unwrap. That's better. So you can see the little grids there. Now these are nice and clean. I can boop, boop, fix up those grids. So this is also a lesson in those who say that you shouldn't pay for everything. Plugins, pay for them when you can, and they're so much cheaper in with Blender as well. Like you don't pay a lot of money for the plugins for Blender. I think this one was like I think you can get for free or for just almost nothing. So yeah, very very useful to have. There's two maps here, so let's go ahead and clean that up. Clear seam and whoopsie, something has two seams, it looks like. I don't know what that is. Let's see, let's isolate that. Feel free to ask questions as well while I do this, because UV unmapping isn't the most interesting thing in the world to look at, but I got to get it done anyway. You know what I mean? So UV squares, that's the plugin name. It's a really really good plugin, by the way. Really good plugin. One of my favorites. Clear seam. There we go. I think that will do. Let's go ahead and mark seam there, and I might actually just keep one attached as well and see what happens. So you can see here, I actually am being pretty trial and error. There's a lot of trial and error, even when it comes to these UV maps. I'm not like, oh, I gotta get the things perfect you know. You don't have to plan the UVs. You just kind of have to do the cuts where you want to, and then see what happens. That's how I approach these things. So a little lesson for you guys, if you're interested in doing this sort of stuff. It's yeah, doesn't have to be too complicated, man. Let's just mark those seams. Oops, let's just clear those seams, sorry. And let's do another unwrap. Keep everything attached where we can. Where's this one? This one is... Now I have to do a little bit of a treasure hunt. There it is there. Let's merge that one. Clear seam. Unwrap. Sweet. Oh, there's still one that has two. Yep, let's clear that one out. Do another unwrap. There we go. That looks much nicer. So, with that in mind, what we need to do is just boop. Boop. Probably Shift R that. Yep, Shift R, Shift R. Awesome. And now we have these nice UV grids. They're not all the right size, but if we go back to our render preview, you can see that the scales are all inappropriately different. So now we can go ahead and clean this up somewhat. So let's go ahead and do that. Make sure they're all kind of the same length and the same proportion, so we can actually get these looking correct. Some will be longer than others, obviously, because some strands are longer than others. But again, it's not too bad if they're really different. It's just that what matters more for me is the direction of the UVs. Have I ever tried to model a transforming character? No, I have not. I don't do much hard surface, but I probably will in the future as I get to the next episode of this Black Curtain concept. So there's a lot of stuff to happen in that could happen. So yeah, but transforming stuff, no, I haven't done much of that. It's not really in my ballpark, put it that way. Not until it's necessary to learn it. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and scale those down. And put those somewhere safe. Let's get out of there, unhide everything, and make sure that there's no overlapping detail. So gonna bring that in there. Let's get these islands. We can actually separate those. We can put those up there somewhere safe. These can go down here. Scale that down. And now we have a nice, clean UV map. Awesome. Could probably scale those up a little bit too. May as well use up as much as we can. All right, sick. So that's up and running. These are going to have their own material, so I don't have to worry about overlapping with the face. So that has its own material, hair, as you can see. So let's go ahead and I'm going to bring that. Actually, let's just get out of there and just make sure that the ponytail. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do that. Bring that into place. Yeah, so since I modified her her model somewhat, I've had to realign a few things. So there we go. That looks a bit better. Could probably scale down her ponytail, honestly. All right, cool. Individual. Turn that off. There we go. Actually, I might actually grab her hair, and what I'm going to do is go into wireframe mode. I'm going to click on these areas here. Is it a lot of information? Well, I hope it's not too overwhelming, but it's not meant to be tutorials. This is just a live stream anyway, so just showing my process and stuff. So as long as you're enjoying it, that's all good to me. So what I'm going to do here is just let's just rejigger that. There we go. That looks a lot nicer now. Bit of polish, you know what I mean? Will you hand animate the ponytail, use soft body or wiggle bones, or do you have a secret technique hidden in your tool shed? Yes, I wouldn't call it a secret. There's a tutorial for this out there. It's an old tutorial, but it's out there. So the way I animate the ponytail is that I make a series of joints. So you mentioned wiggle bones, but this is a little bit different. I make a series of joints, and then I create a single line of edges, and I give that a fabric or a cloth simulation, and then I create a bunch of nulls on the points of that edge, that single edge, and then I use those nulls as aim constraints, or in this case, damp track constraints, and then I constrain the bones from that hair, that single strand of bones for the hair to those nulls, and then I get like live physics for that. That's how I do it. Oh, you don't have to apologize. This is all new stuff. It's all good. Yeah. All right, cool. So the hair's done. Oh, yeah, that would be cool. Oh, yeah. Oh, in terms of transforming animal, like and transforming organic animation. So, yeah, that's possible. That's much easier than doing, in my opinion, that's a lot easier than doing mechanical transformations. I thought you meant about like transformers. So no, I haven't done like transformers, but like transforming from one face to another, for instance, that's definitely easy and possible. I've done that before, for sure. So yes, to answer that question at least. All right, cool. Let's just get rid of these old fucking armature nodes. Jesus. Um, yeah, it just shows you how many edits I've done that I've forgotten to fix up some things, clean things out. How many rig variations there've been. All right, I think that's it for the body. I'm not going to do the clothing today because the clothing I'm not going to texture because that goes against the style that I have in mind, and I like the fact that it's nice and flat already, so I don't want to worry about that. So now we're ready to export this out as a texture. Let's just make sure that this has got a UV as well, just out of curiosity, because the eyes are actually I mean, I don't have to worry about texturing the eyes, but they're good to be in there just in case, just for reference, the sake of reference. So let's go ahead and unwrap those. And I could actually add a little bit of stylization to this as well. So let's just go ahead and add a crease, mark seam. I think these are still mirrored, so that's good too. Those are fine. That's just a solidify modifier. So let's select both and just do a unwrap. That should be fine. Ah, I haven't applied the scale to those. Interesting. Okay. Let's go ahead and fix that up. Let's go ahead and scale those. Apply those scale on those. Do the same thing on that. That one's okay. Let's do another unwrap. There we go. That should be fine. Cool. Let's make sure that these are labeled properly. This one is I. And I'll call that sclera. Book trailers. Oh, right, cool. Yeah. All right, nice. Yeah, I get you then. In that case, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely possible. The question is how much do you have to change it? Do you want to change the head? Changing a head is easy. Transforming from a human body to a wolf would be very difficult. In terms of rigging, not impossible, but difficult. But if you did it in steps, so I don't know if you remember the old Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban. The way they did it is that they did it through shots. So you can tell that they chose specific shots to like transform the wolf from one to another, and then they had different, I guess, stages of that transformation as different. Like to be able to go from human to werewolf, they had like 3 or 4 different models, and then they used shots to show the transformation, and they used blend shapes and displacements and stuff. And that was enough to give the idea of a transformation without it being completely one seamless transition, because that would be very difficult to do, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. All right, cool. Why aren't you turning on? What did I do wrong there? That should be Shrink wrapping. There we go. What? That's weird. Why aren't you shrink wrapping when I turn it on? Oh, wait, the scale. Idiot. Okay, yeah. All right, cool. So I think I've got everything sorted. I think we're good to go. So what I'm going to do is export out everything except the clothing. So let's go to EV Master, go to Geo. Let's turn off the clothing and just export out Evie as she is here. All right, cool. So I'm going to select everything of the geo. So select, go to object or select by type, geo. Actually, I might have to bring in the clothes just for the sake of not getting banned. Let's just go ahead and be safe about that. Let's just make sure we got some UVs. Let's just UV unwrap those. This one doesn't have to be anything worthwhile to care about. I just want to make sure that she has something on. Actually, it's the same clothing. It's like, let's see. Takia Skin Evie. Let's go ahead and call that. Tune clothing. Yeah, that'll do. Tune clothing 01 and tune clothing 002. All right, cool. All right, so we're going to export that. Let's ignore her actual holster though. Ignore the holster. Let's go ahead and hide those. Don't want to see those. I don't have any blur functions. I don't want to blur the screen because like I'm going to be texturing it, so I want you guys to see what's going on. So yeah, that's fine. That should be all good to go. In terms of subdivision, turn that on. Make sure this is subdivided as well. That's good. In terms of clothing, she doesn't have any solidify. That's good. Yep. So just being cautious of what I'm exporting. So sometimes you got to make sure that it's all good. Let's turn off the solidify there for now. Blender 3.1 apparently has this nice new feature for the eyelid for subdivisions, which will make this look a lot better too. So I'm looking forward to that. But actually, I'll keep the solidify on that because just to keep it clean. And I think that's it. Oh, and her teeth. Let's hide her teeth. Don't want to show her teeth inside here. Your body. Just gotta find where the hell I put them. Where are they? All right, cool. So let's go ahead and hide. Put those into Geo. I'm gonna put them into their own fucking collection. Geo or Eevee mouth. I'm gonna put that into its own collection. Put it into Geo, and then uncheck it. Cool. So there's a lot of preparation when it comes to this sort of stuff, especially with regards to preparing for unwrapping. Yeah, Vertex Bevel. Can't wait. Sorry, I just gotta check something out. Vertex Bevel, I can't wait to fix it because stuff like my eyebrows, can't wait. Eyebrows and eyelids, it's gonna look so nice. So nice. Just give me a second. I'm just gonna put down just gonna write a message for work. Well, freelance work. Sorry, just working this out. Because it's already 9 o'clock. I'm running out of things. So yeah, this is the problem with doing freelance and all that sort of stuff. You got to manage like 5,000 things. All right, cool. Let's move on. Sweet. So let's go ahead and export this out. So lucky for you guys, I'm actually going to continue on into more than an hour. Let's go ahead and texture paint this. So we're going to select everything, select by type, mesh, and I'm going to export this out as an OBJ. Hopefully it will export out the subdivision as well, because I want it to be subdivided, because you get a better result, especially if you plan on if you plan on showing the animation with subdivision turned on, you kind of need to have the texture map subdivided as well. So let's go ahead and export out that as an OBJ. You can see how many versions I've done already. So 42, selection only. And let's export that out. And let's hope for the best. Hopefully it all works. So, and I haven't forgotten anything. So open up Substance. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do some cool texturing. It's not going to be too complicated, the texturing. I'm going to keep it fairly simple because it's all toon shaded anyway, so I don't have to worry about bump maps or anything like that on the face. Skin shaders, I don't need to worry about that. For me, it's more about the contouring around the eyes and the lips, making sure that she has some nice textures around that, painterly textures. So let's go ahead and open up that. So let's go to documents. Sorry, I'm just opening up the file. Production, Blender, characters, Eevee, and there should be an OBJ in that file. So you don't see it because it's on a different window. There we go, 42. Let's drag that in there. So let's go ahead and import it for now with 2048, UV tile workflows enabled, and push OK. And hopefully it imports. It has, thank God. And you can see here, there's Eevee, clothing and all, good to go. And yeah, subdivided as well, which is really good to see. Her hair hasn't subdivided, so let's go and fix that up. There's one thing I always forget. So we need to turn that on. Subdivision, boom. And I could go ahead and what did I do at first? I did add a little bit of edges there. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Let's go ahead and give this a bit of creasing, because I liked her to have a little bit of sharpness. The whole point of the show, in my head, is basically to give a really unique sharpness to the characters that I haven't seen or in animation in a long time. So let's go and give this edge crease a little bit of love. So that's better. That looks sick. There we go, that's better. See how much cleaner that looks? Looks so good. Yeah, sweet. All right. One thing I forgot to do is also give this a little bit of a texture as well. So this one can be called ponytail loop. For now, it'll be fine. All right, cool. So everything has got their own stuff. That should be fine. All right, let's do that again. Select by type, mesh, export. Oops, wrong one. Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm glad it's been useful for so many people. I've got a lot of big plans. As I mentioned, for those who weren't there when I was just um, talking about what the plans are for the channel in the next couple months, it's all going to be about animation, storytelling, and that sort of stuff. So expect to see a lot of tutorials on animation, introduction to animation, both 2D and 3D, some stuff on storyboarding, how to visually storytell, that sort of stuff. It's all going to be about that. I'm so excited to talk about it too. There we go. That looks a lot better now. Her hair is now subdivided. Yeah, I'm not a fan of anime. I am not an anime fan personally. Sorry for those who are big fans. I can't stand it. I grew up without it, and in terms of storytelling, I don't like the way storytelling works in anime. It's very, very tough for me to get roped into it. But that's just me. All right, cool. So everything is in there. So now what I'm going to do is start off by baking down these meshes. I'm going to use a 2048 texture map. Actually, yeah, let's just go ahead and do that. Bake selected textures. So the idea here isn't to replace the toon shade, it's to accentuate it in this case. So that's what the baking down is all about. Ah, shit. I screwed up again. I gotta fix up the lips. Because she has a separate material on the lips and I need to fix that up. That's alright. We'll bake down their face separately again in a second. Again, every time I do this, there's always some degree of screw up on my part. I'm gonna keep the nose as is because it's its own material, but yeah, the lips need to be part of the face. Funny stories. I'm not sure. Are you talking about the for your own 3D stuff or for something else? All right, cool. So you can see that the bake down works pretty well. The only problem is I need to actually make sure the lips have their own material. So I'm gonna save this first, and then I'll do a fresh bake. So like I said in my previous tutorial, this sort of stage of texturing is always my most painful. I can't stand it. Just getting things to work inside of Substance can be a pain because there's you always forget to do something. So yeah, that's my biggest pet peeve when it comes to this stage of the thing. Oh, nice one. Let's go ahead and put a new image, Eevee body. In this case, it'll be 05. So many versions already. All right, cool. So let's just go ahead and remove that material from the slot. So hopefully, I just go into the material, remove the mouth, remove the eyeliner. That should fix up that. Undo that actually. Let's just call this making sure that these are all separate. This is 01. Okay. Removing any superfluous materials. Let's call that. Yeah. Oh, it is quick Substance Painter. Adobe owns it now. Adobe owns Substance Painter now. So and they've owned it for about a year now. So yeah. Let's go ahead and fix this up though. Let's make sure that this doesn't have any materials associated with it. Assign that. I think that's all good. Yep, that's fine. Lovely. Again, one more selection, select by type, and I think after that we should be good to go. I know, it's a bit of a pain. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and export that out. So you can even tell how frustrating this part of the process is when 10 people drop off the viewership on YouTube because of how boring just setting this stuff up is. All right, cool. 42. Fresh import. Let's go ahead. Let's do this. All right. I'm not too concerned about the import in the overlapping texture maps on the eyelid because they're going to be black anyway. Bake those mesh maps one more time. Actually, yeah, let's bake the whole lot. Any toot on sub one day? I'm not sure what you mean by that. No idea. Could you clarify? All right. Letting this bake down. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. It's also the case that it probably gets late in certain parts of the area. Yeah, and this is how it is usually with teaching this in real life as well. So there's always roadblocks. There's always things that go wrong. Yes, there are. I have plans for that. Yep. So in terms of texturing, I have big plans for texturing as well. So the idea being that animation will be the priority, but in between I'll be doing small snippets here and there of different things. So that's the cool thing there. All right, here we go. Good to go. Save the file. Let's move on. So for the clothing, I'm just going to go ahead and just quickly just give it some color so the algorithm doesn't think I'm drawing a naked lady. Let's go ahead and add just a fill and give that some color. And in the end, I might end up just texturing this in the future as well. So as a temporary stopgap, this will be fine as well. So let's go ahead and just give it some roughness. And then for the pants, give that a little bit of color. Give it some roughness. There we go. And I don't know what the other Toon clothing is. I can't remember. I think that's it. No, it should be fine. Yep, sweet. Let's focus on her face. So all the way to the body, you can see that all the materials have been imported and they're treated as separate objects. So we can actually hide away certain things, which is really cool. But for the body, because they're all part of one UV, so if we go to the body now, let's see, skin Eevee. Ah, her ears are separate. Fuck. Let's see, where the hell is skin Eevee? There it is there. I thought I changed that. Okay, cool. I actually didn't need to have them separate. Okay, interesting. That's all right. Let's just start with the face then. So what we can do is hide the clothing. I'm going to keep him there anyway because I'm going to keep it as it is now anyway. So that'll actually come in handy. Skin Eevee. So now we actually have only her face visible. This is Substance Painter. So if you're interested in texturing, this is the go-to app. All right, so I made a screw up here that her ears are now separate to her face. So I don't want that. So I'm going to actually go back again and re-export this and turn off the solidify to begin with because I don't want to see that. And I'm going to make sure that her material here is the same as everything else. Let's go Toon face and call that Eevee. And drag that to her ears. There we go, that's better. Yeah, we're going overtime because I am no longer working full-time. So I can actually do this. I can actually be online longer. I'm prioritizing teaching and freelance over doing full-time work for now. I found it more satisfying. So I've gone back to my old ways, and I'm very happy for it too. I'm excited, which means I can do stuff like this more often. So yeah, so I'm gonna do this for another hour. Oh, that's cool. Go for it. Whatever you want. So let's go select by type again, export mesh, and re-export. All part of the process. Yeah, cheers. I got big plans for this year as well. So apart from teaching and doing these videos and doing YouTube, I want to turn YouTube into something more than what it is. So in classic fashion, you kind of want to turn this into a full-time gig. So ultimately, I want to turn what I do in terms of Patreon stuff into my money generator. So I want to turn this into like something that can be full on usable. So face is working now. Everything is good. That's good. Body's all good. Great. So the body and the everything else is separate. Sweet. Let's go ahead and start to paint. Kind of, yeah. So I want to make YouTube one of my main sources of income, but I want to do some. I'm gonna have some big announcements. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. But I wouldn't mind seeing about doing some more direct mentorships. So if the interest is there, I got to put out a poll or whatever and see what people are interested in. But if I can like do short courses, like personal, like private short courses of like 10 people get online, we all go through it. We do like proper 3D, start to finish 10-week course into this sort of stuff, and I obviously have to charge for that, but that's the plan. Maybe down the line. All right, cool. So let's start to work out her face. So I'm gonna give some blocking colors to this. So I'm gonna start blocking out these colors. Base. Let's just call that base for now. I'm gonna copy this layer onto her body. So on her skin, let's just paste that in there. Give that the same color to start off with. Her eyes, so eyeliner, that's this one here. Let's give that a color. I'm going to give that black, because that's just how it's going to be. Let's go with roughness, black, to give her a toon line back on her thing. Something like that. Well, maybe. We'll see how it goes. I have to look at the intricacies of it, basically, to see if it's feasible. With this one, again, let's add the black for her eyelids. Roughness is 100%. So I'm just going to try and get her toony look, what I can do inside of Substance first. All blocking. And then her... Actually, this is going to be really cool. This is going to be really cool. I'm actually glad I did the eyes. I brought the eyes in with this, because this is going to look sick. It'll really make a pop. What the heck did you just click? You I don't know if you've seen this before, but this is 3D art. This is me texturing 3D stuff. So for the eyes, where's sclera? Sclera. There we are. Let's add white. Pump that up a little bit. Roughness. Cool. I'm not too concerned about making it shiny because, well, I don't need to. It's all toon shaded, right? No, this would not be Udemy or any crap like this. This would be one-on-one. This would be one-on-one. Yeah, this would be like proper tutelage, not bullcrap like Udemy or you pay $20 sort of thing. This is something that you'd pay a couple $100 for and get real-time mentorship. That's the plan. All right, let's add some blue. I'm gonna add a little bit of blue to her eyes, and I'm gonna show you a little trick with that. So I'm gonna use a little filter. I'm gonna use a mask, and then I'm going to add a generator, and then I'm gonna add a ambient occlusion, and then invert that, and I'm gonna get some nice. Looks sick. Change the balance, and then I get some nice. Oof, that looks nice. I am liking that. All right, cool. I'm gonna give that a little bit of a brighter color. Cool. I may need to. Ooh, it'll be a bit tough with the blue around the eye. I might have to do this manually. Actually, let's just clear out the mask. Actually, delete that because if I move the eyeball now when I animate it, it's gonna have a blue dot. So let's go ahead and paint. I'm gonna paint some blue around her eye. This is where I start to use my tablet, by the way. So let's go ahead and use the tablet. And then I'm going to add a filter. And add a blur. That looks sick. Yeah, something like that. All right, let's go ahead and invert the brush. Let's turn on the eraser. Just need to bring down the brush size. So I need to make it subtle. Yeah, that's cool. I'm liking that. Yeah, well, Udemy does have some sick courses. I learned how to do mocap using Udemy. But the question is finding the right ones on Udemy that are useful. So that's the big question. All right, cool. There we go. Oh, cheers. Well, check out my my channel if you ever want to do some more 3D. There's plenty of tutorials out there for modeling now. All right, cool. So for her hair, let's go ahead. I'm going to show you why I before I jump into the face, I'm going to show you why I built the hair in such a way. So if I go ahead and add a color now, so I'm going to add her signature purple color, right? Like so. I'm going to add a little bit of highlights now. So I'm going to add a new layer. Let's give her some pink on those highlights. I'm going to add a black mask. And in this case, I'm going to add a generator. Then I'm going to add curvature. And invert that. So I get this sort of effect. Let's see if this works. Oh, actually, let's change that back. Let's change the balance. There we go. Let's get a little bit of curvature balance. Get those medium details in there. And if you find that the curvature isn't working to your liking, you can always go to the texture set settings, bake those mesh maps on that particular thing again, and just give it a bit more sensitivity, so a bit more radius. Let's see what happens if I increase that radius on that hair. Oh man, I gotta record my lines in the next episode. That's gonna be painful. Actually, I might do it the opposite way. Let's try that again. See how that got thicker? Let's change that again. Sampling radius. Let's go with less than. Let's go with 0.6, 0.5. And let's see if there's any. Let's go high res on that as well. Yeah, the software courses are good. It's when you get to like the creative stuff, it can be like very hard to find which ones are the good things and which ones are the bad ones. That looks better already. Yeah, that looks sick. That's way better. See how like changing those settings can give you some different better results? So now what I'm going to do is just give this a little bit of a blur with a filter. Let's blur that out. So just a little bit of highlights there. You can see that it's working really well with the hair. Nah, Substance is easy as fuck. It's probably easier than, it's actually easier than Blender, to be honest. It's more like Photoshop than it is than any other 3D software. It's one of the easiest ones to get right, to learn. All right, so here's why. I've made sure that the direction of the hair is all the same direction in the UV map. So let's just save that out. If I go ahead and add, let's just see if I can add a noise map. I'm gonna look that up. Noise map. Add a noise map. Substance painter. I'm not sure if there is. I might have to make one in Photoshop first. Or I just do it my other way that I did in my other tutorial. Fill layers. Alright, let's go to alright, cool. Let's go to make a new material. And in this case, I'm going to actually turn off the color, the map, roughness, and keep the normal and height. But in this case, I'm going to make the height a little bit less. You won't see any difference at the moment. And in the mask, I'm going to add a mask. And let's jump into, I'm going to add some grunge. So in the masks, let's see if I can add a, I'm not sure if I can add a filter or a generator. Let's go ahead and add probably a stencil, honestly. Yeah, perfect. So something like this noise. Okay, yep, yeah, I get it now. Yep. So under the material itself, under the normal map or the height map, I'm going to add a noise. Will that work? No, not that one. I want to do it on the texture itself, on the mask itself. So alpha. Ah, right. I got to add a fill. My bad. My bad. Sometimes it's adding this. Yeah. Well, that's the big roadblock with Quexel Mixer at the moment is the lack of baking, in my opinion. Attributes. Can I change the scale of that? I think it's added it. You can see it's kind of added it. Balance. Yeah, there it has. It has not done it. It has done it. Let's just go to scale. Let's keep going higher. 120. So let's go with 500 in the scale. So you can see here that the mask is actually masking out the noise. So let's go ahead and give it 1,000. See how that looks. No, 1,000, mate. 1,000. So you can see here that it's working. Let's go ahead and change the projection to UV projection. It can even be, yeah, that's fine. Doesn't really matter. Cool. If the noise is not what I like, I can change it. But I think that will be fine. So what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to scale this out. So if I go to scale Z, let's see what we can do. Yep, X. Yep, there it goes. See how it's starting to stretch now? So now if I stretch this out by a factor or just bring this down, just go ahead and scale this out. We can start to get the direction of the noise. So for some reason this is not. Let's go ahead and change that projection. No, not going to work. Interesting. It should have worked. Should have worked a lot better there. I'm not sure why it didn't work that well. Weird. Either way, let's go ahead and just, in that case, if it's not going to work, what I'm going to do is just paint it manually. So what I'm going to do is just draw lines down the brush. So you can see here that if I just draw a straight line, the UV maps, the bump map is actually populating down the entire map. So I'm just going to go ahead and just draw a straight line down here and really just play with that a little bit. And what I'm basically going to do is I'm adding texture, bump map texture, to give this even more detail apart from that. So what I'm going to do after this, I'll blur it after the fact. And then we'll see what happens after that. Cool. So now you can see here it looks pretty shitty. Like those bump maps look a little shit. But we can go ahead and then blur it. And it should naturally end up being pretty cool. Alright, so I'm going to add a filter. Blur directional. And there we go. You can see here that if we now blur this out, that's what I want, that effect. It's interesting that it's directionally speaking, it's a little bit different. I think the UVs in this case are a little bit out. Let's just draw a line, actually. Let's just draw a colored line. So this is where that trial and error stuff comes into play, by the way. Let's do another black mask. I just want to see which way these things are going. No, that's correct. That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. Just being a bitch, that's all. So let's go ahead and delete that. My UVs are correct. I'm just going to make sure they're all traveling in the right direction. Intensity. And you can see here that we're starting to get something that I want. You can start to see the difference in the thing. So Patrick Pope, what do you work? It sounds like you're already a professional. All right, cool. You might hear slack in between here and there. That's to do with some stuff. Ah, cool. Nice. Is it for like games, or is it for something else? All right, cool. Let's get the stretch going on there. The hair's looking pretty good so far. I'm going to try doing that purlin again. Ah, nice one. So what I'm going to do is do the same thing. Color, roughness, normal, height. Keep those on. In this case, I'm going to turn on a little bit of height differential. Add the mask. Add a fill. Grayscale, purlin. Do the same thing. Let's go with the noise parameters. Scale. Let's go with... oh, it's working now. I'm not sure why it wasn't working earlier. Oh, it's a noise fractal. That's why. Okay. Let's go with 100. Trying to work out the scale now. What to do. All right, I think that's cool. All right, sweet. Let's get the bump map looking a bit stronger. So the height can be really strong there. Nice. And then on top of this, I'm going to add a directional fill. So I'm going to add a filter, directional blur, but this time it's going to be vertical and really stretch that out. So 90 degrees. Increase the intensity. And we should get some really crazy you can see it's sort of changing the way that the hair behaves. That's looking really good now. Really cool. And we can do the same thing with details in the hair as well. So if I wanted to, I can even add color back in. And you'd be able to start to see the changes. So I'm going to add some highlights. So inside this blur directional, you can see it's doing its thing. The only thing now what we need to do is just change the intensity of the levels. So let's go to levels. Let's bring down those dark levels. So I'm just really playing with it to see what works, what doesn't. Okay, I get this now. So you can really play with those different features. All right, cool. That works. Contrast, can increase those contrasts. You can see what the kind of difference it makes. But you're really playing with those different ideas. Let's go with that. Max level. All right, cool. Sweet. Oh, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the chat. All right, cool. So there's a difference there in terms of detail. So check that out. So if I turn off the color now, we now have all this kind of hair detail in there. And depending on how intense I want it to be, I can make it really subtle or make it really strong. So basically, I've got this nice combed effect going right through the hair. So that's really cool. No, I won't be doing any voice acting on mine. I'll be hiring voice actors eventually for mine. I'm not going to be doing that. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do now is add a little bit of colors in the roots. I'm going to add some highlights in the ends there as well. Some color in the roots there as well to give it some depth. So let's go ahead and do that. So add a new fill. In this case, I'm going to put it underneath the highlights, and I'm going to give it a darker purple, like so. And I might actually put it on top. I'll put it on top. I'm going to add a black mask, and I'm just going to add a little bit of darkness in certain areas just to give it more depth. Like so. And I'm going to blur that out. So just go ahead, add a filter, blur, shunk. And I can bring that down underneath the highlights as well. I might do that in the end. And now we have this nice variation in highlights. For the fill layer here, with the highlights here, I can change the overlay to be, let's try overlay. What screen? Color dodge. No, screen. Looks exactly the same. That's all right. Thought I'd give it a go. That's all right. But what I can do here, I can actually add like a slight change in the mask there. So I can add a paint mask. And then just very lightly with opacity turned down, I can swap out the highlights there, soften those out. Let's turn on mirroring, by the way. Let's just make it a bit easier. So you can see what I'm doing here. Ah, nice one. I've hired voice actors in the past, but that was with university. It's pretty easy to get voice actors. You just got to find the talent and be able to pay for it, of course. All right, cool. I think that looks pretty sweet. All right, cool. So that's looking pretty sweet. What I'm going to do now is add a little bit of ambient occlusion to that hair with another layer. Let's go with a new layer. In this case, it's going to be darker. And I'm going to add a black mask. Add some ambient occlusion. Let's go ahead and add a generator. Ambient occlusion. And invert that. And just change the balance and blur to get what I want. So there we go. Cool. As you can see, the contrast coming into the shadows there as well. That's really cool. I can bring in the roughness there as well. All right, so I think the hair is largely done, apart from maybe a few personal touches on top of the highlights. So maybe I'm gonna add a few custom highlights on top of that. But what a difference that is to the what you see in the what would you pay for an okay? It all depends, man. Yeah, because voice actors can be very expensive. What I would suggest is if you can find some students that are practicing acting and voice acting to go down that route. So if you go to university, pay them. Yeah, and they'll get a kick out of it too. And you can credit them. They'll get some voice credits, that sort of stuff. That will be really cool. Yeah, that's my recommendation. All right, cool. So let's add a little bit more detail on the hair here. In this case, I might add maybe some yellow, just a little bit of yellow, and see what happens. All right, cool. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. All right, so I don't know if yellow will work very well, but you know, worth a go. Interesting. That's very interesting. I can see why the hair's screwing up a little bit. So the cool thing about Substance is that it's non-destructive, by the way. So if I want to change the color of these highlights, I can do so without worrying about anything, basically. I can change these to whatever I want it to be. So if I go ahead and draw these in, you're asking me about the electric vector look. That's just down to you could be down to the color choices you're making, and the way that you're blending your highlights and shadows. But also, Blender has different color spaces as well, which do affect the brightness of the render. So if you switch the render to standard, you might get a more brighter color that looks more digital. The other thing as well, Kelly Johnson, is that when you're rendering out of 3D, you almost always have to do post-production on it. So what I mean by that is that you have to really edit it in After Effects or inside of what do you call it? Or inside of like Fusion or Resolve or whatever to get that color looking more punchy, more electric. That's how it works. Even in Blender, you can do the edit in Blender using the compositor. You most likely can get away with using the compositor there. Let's add a filter, blur this shit out. Oh, thanks, dude. Christmas was really good for me. Really, like, the numbers that went up over Christmas was insane. My plan this year as well is to get to 100,000. 100,000 subs. And if I could get to 1,000 patrons, that would be fucking amazing. But I don't know if it's going to happen. But we'll see. But that's my goal. If I can get close to 1,000 patrons at $5 a piece, I wouldn't have to worry about freelancing. Put it that way. Hello, Feud Sculpts. Thank you very much for joining. To answer your question about the arcane extreme style, I fucking love it. It's something that I've been trying to do. I was doing myself for years, and then to see it actually be used as a on a big budget show, really cool. There we go. That will do for the hair, I think. I'm hoping so, dude. You can become a patron if you look at the bottom of my stream. You see the link there. You can become a patron there. Ad-free. Ad-free content. All the videos I upload will be ad-free, obviously, and you get the source files as well. How would you estimate this character would be worth if it was a commission or a part-time job? So if I was to do this over a couple days, my rate would be around $700 Australian a day. So say this took 4 days to do, that would be $2,700, $2,800. That's how it would go. Oh, thank you. Yeah, for sure. Thanks, man. Thank you very much. All right, cool. Let's do the face. The face is this is where I want to really push the style a little bit. So the face is where I really want to do it. I'm going to keep on going until around 10 a.m. Australian. And I really want to get the makeup looking pretty cool. So let's go ahead and just work on her face. So the first thing we can do to give this a bit more texture. Yeah. Well, I work as a professional, man. So, got to do what you got to do. All right, cool. So, with the base, I'm going to add a new color. I'm going to give it some pink undertones. I'm going to add a black mask. What I would say is that if when it comes down to that electric look, Kelly Johnson, again, really practice compositing. Push those colors in compositing. Get the base color done in Blender, then bring it out to Photoshop, Resolve, After Effects, or even Blender's compositor, and just pump up that contrast. That's how it works. I can give you an example, actually. Let me give you an example in a second. So I'm going to add a filter generator. Let's go to ambient occlusion. Invert that. And it will be subtle. Let's see what happens if I change the balance. Contrast. Is it going to show up anything? Why isn't it working? That should have brought up something. There's not much contrast for it to work, I guess. I'm going to get rid of that one then. Let's go ahead and add a curvature instead. I know what's wrong. There's no baked down mesh map for this. Let's go ahead and bake this down. So let me just bring up. So I recently updated my Twitch page a little bit yesterday. So if I bring up Photoshop, I'll show you what I mean by that electric look. Now it's working. Sick. All right, cool. Let's I'm opening up Photoshop to show you what I mean. But let's add a ambient occlusion. Inverse that. There we go. That's what I want. A little bit of that. And you can see that how different that looks just with a little bit of color contouring. Just a little bit makes such a difference. Unfortunately, the UV map is a little bit, it's getting in the way there, so I might have to fix that UV map up a little bit. But let's take a quick stab. I just want to show you something about that electric look that you're talking about, dude. So just opening up a file. That's a good point. I never used any compositor add-ons for a Blender. I find Blender's compositor is really powerful, but it's so slow. But all right, let's bring this over here. So there's the thumbnail, obviously for Twitch. But all you need to give it that electric look is a little bit of love. So these two filters here, you may not have noticed it. As soon as I turn those on, electric. Flat, electric. That's all I do to add that extra bit of punch. Obviously, I have bloom and stuff turned on inside of Blender, but that's how you do it. You have to do compositing. You have to do post-production to get that electric look. Otherwise, it will always look flat. Always, always, always. So that's my suggestion to you, Callie Johnson. Now, I've noticed that that this seam here is getting in my way. I don't like it. So what I'm going to do is go to my UV map here. I know it's going to be painful to see. I'm going to save this. And I'm going to remove the seam here, because I don't want to see it. So I'm going to completely remove that seam. Yeah, exactly right. Like the amount of plugins and additions that you can get with After Effects is insane. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this seam. Oh, remove that seam, sorry. Clear seam. I'm going to remove this seam here. Oh, keep this seam at the top actually, because I probably need it. And this one here, I'm going to remove as well. Clear seam. Clear this seam, and just see what happens when I unwrap this. Looks a bit more screwy. Let's add a seam at the back as well. Gonna remove this one. Make it more traditional. Mark this seam. Unwrap. Ooh, that's a bit painful. Yeah, there's so many. That's the thing, right? That's the reason why they are so popular and needed, is just down to that. Let's see what I've done to screw this up. Okay, interesting. All right, let's go ahead and mark this seam, clear this seam. Just see how this looks. Unwrap. Something. I see what's happening. No, doesn't like it. I'm just trying to figure out why it's all bent. Let's go ahead and bring this back. Oh, no, I need that back. Just trying to figure out exactly how to fix this UV map. Let's see. Let's add a little bit of a... One, two... Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out exactly how to fix this. Clear seam. Let's try that out. Unwrap. There we go. That looks a lot better. Nice. Alright, cool. So what exactly happened here that makes it uneven? I have no idea. So what I might do is add a seam around the back here now. And bring that back and see how that works. Mark seam. That looks much better. Yep, that's cool. Alright, cool. That will do for this. Let's go ahead and reconfigure that. So I'm not too concerned about seeing a seam down here. I think it'll be alright. Yep, that's awesome. Alright, cool. And the nice thing as well is that the texture map for the face is actually going to be a lot larger, so that's cool too. So when am I back on? I'm hoping Wednesday. Or even tomorrow. We'll see how we go. But I need to do some planning for my animation stuff first. Before I move on. But before we wrap up, I do want to show you some cool stuff with this texturing still. I think that will be good. Let's make sure that the ears aren't overlapping as well, because I'll make that mistake very easily. There we go. You can see it's overlapping. One ear, two ear. Cool. Unfortunately, though, I'll have to re-export. But here's the magic of Substance Painter, by the way. You'll see the magic. Yeah, I use UDIMs. Yep. You can see here on the body, UDIMs are being used. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and re-export that out. Select the mesh. Export OBJ 42. Now here's the magic of Substance Painter, all right? So if you have to update your model, and as long as like certain models and certain things are consistent, check this out. So I've already textured the hair and I'm re-importing the model, right? If I go ahead and drag the model in, it will remember the UV maps of what I've already painted. Obviously the face is a bit screwy, but everything else is really, really good. So all I got to do now is just bake the one thing that is important, which is the face. So if I go to face, bake the mesh map, it will fix up everything. There it goes. Awesome. And now, if we look at the bake now, there's no seam. There's no visible seam at the cheek, which is just what I want. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do, I want to add a little bit of color to her eyelids. So I'm going to add a little bit of color by adding a fill. Yeah, this is why substance is king when it comes to texturing. So I'm going to add a little bit of color in terms of, let's go with a little bit of maroon. Oh, no. let's actually keep it consistent. Let's go with a little bit purple. I'm gonna add a black mask. And what I'm gonna do is, with a high opacity, I'm gonna paint in some color. Oh, let's turn on the mirroring, by the way, so I can mirror that across. So I'm using my tablet at the moment, just so you know, in case you're wondering. I'm gonna add a little bit of color. And what I want to try and experiment with is just adding a little bit of eyeshadow to her eyelids, and then sort of linking that with her eye brush. Yeah, she is, man. She's awesome. She's one of the best characters ever made. Let's add a blur. Oh, that looks pretty cool already. So already we're adding a little bit of character to her eyes. So what I'm going to do is just get that color up a bit further. That's what I want. I want strong purple. Cool. And what I'm going to try and do... Oh, cheers. I'm glad you can join. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I need to build out my asset library for my next stage of animation. All right, cool. What I'm going to do now is add a paint layer, and what I'm going to try and do is just really sharply. That looks sick. All right, cool. I'm liking that. Get this effect going on. Is get this going on. Nice. That's sick. I don't know, dude. I don't know because I haven't read the books. I'm assuming that the books would have the answer. To be honest. All right, cool. And there we go. A little bit of eyeshadow there. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of color to her cheeks. I'm going to add another mask. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of pink. Black mask. And let's go ahead and add a little bit of pink. Just here. A little bit there. A little bit here. And go ahead and add a blur. Don't want to be too crazy. Keep it subtle. I'll have to check it out, man. And then also to add a little bit of contouring around, just to give it that cartoony look, I'm going to add some highlights around the chin and the sides. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow, like a brighter yellow. Going to add a bit of a generator. Add some curvature. Ooh, what's going on there? I forgot to add the mask. Add a black mask. Add some curvature. And you can see what's going on there. So what I'm going to do is adjust that curvature to only fit the sides of her face. So you can see the highlights happening there. Let's go to the curvature and go to get that a little bit more subtle. The Buzz Lightyear movie, I don't even know what to expect from that, man. It's such a weird concept, in my opinion. I find myself less and less interested in Pixar films by the year, to be honest. So I don't know what to think about it. All right, cool. So there's some highlights there. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of blur now. And you can see it's got that nice, subtle contouring around the sides there. Looking pretty cool. No worries, man. Cheers. Thanks for joining. Appreciate the attention as well. Good luck with your voice acting as well. Rise of Gru. I'm more interested in like the next Spider-Verse movie, honestly. Um, Funnily enough, the director of uh Minions and stuff actually contacted me about thanking me about my tutorials, which is pretty cool. Because he used it for some home projects of his. He actually used my Blender tutorials to help out with some stuff. All right, cool. What else do I want to do now? I'm gonna add some lipstick to this. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna add. So I still want to have black top on the lip, colored on the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is add another fill layer. Give it black. And I'm not too concerned about the roughness, so I'm going to keep it relatively low roughness. High roughness. Add a black mask. Oh, thanks. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm trying to create something different and, just fun, honestly. And a bit more adult. So I'm hoping it will actually come to fruition. So you might notice that sometimes when I brush, it translates to the bottom of the fucking lip. So if we just change the tangent to UV alignment, it should not. Yeah, that's better. Still does it. That's all right. Let's just use, actually, let's just use this tool. Let's use this tool, the polyfill tool. I can get away with that for now. I've been using Blender on and off since well, not on and off. I've been using Blender almost exclusively since 2015. I really got into it in 2016 when I finished my job as a 2D artist. And I wanted to continue my 3D stuff, but obviously Maya and that is a bit too expensive, so I decided to take a punt with Blender, and I was really happy with it. So haven't really looked back since. Nah, not ditching that look. It's just accentuating some texture. So I'm not ditching the electric, that sort of vectorized feel. I'm just adding a little bit of contouring to give her a little bit more personality. Because if it's too flat, then it looks a bit too amateurish. And you'll understand what I mean. You need to have a little bit of contouring to keep things looking, nice and clean. And yeah, trust me, it makes a difference. Oh, really? That's cool. Yeah, I started the channel as a Maya channel originally for teaching, and then I stopped teaching for a while and I decided to just go with some Blender stuff instead. And yeah, it's been really fun. So just going ahead and delete. I don't want to remove that. Whatever. This is the only thing I hate about Substance is that it just doesn't like when things get a bit close. It overlaps the UVs and it's just a pain to fix. Anyway, let's just add another layer for the bottom lip. Oops. Wrong one. Let's go ahead and use the brush. Yeah, you don't you don't want to rely on fan art every single time. I will be doing some fan art stuff in the future though. So stay tuned for that. Um, I don't know if you guys remember the poll I posted yesterday. But basically, yeah, the idea of the poll is to show what inspires me through making one-off pieces of fan art and stuff that people can really have fun with downloading and trying out. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of pop culture streams myself because it's too negative. I find it very toxic, put it that way. Even if they're just commentating on pop culture in general, but have a negative, like always negative spin on it, it gets tiresome, put it that way. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can totally export this out and edit it in Photoshop or GIMP or whatever. And I would actually recommend it sometimes. Sometimes you need to up the contrast a little bit, and it's faster to do it inside of Photoshop or another app. Let's see, projection. No, object. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this to work properly. I hate when this happens. Can't get in there, so you got to go in and like manually paint it. It could get a little bit tricky, especially when you're inside the mesh and it doesn't let you. So this is a classic example of where oh yeah, Substance is like very worthwhile. It's one of the few paid softwares where I'd absolutely recommend. 100%. It's almost an essential. Well, it is an essential, really, to save time, effort, all kinds of stuff. Cool. So there we go. There's some lips, which is nice to see. I'm going to give this one a little bit more thickness. And yeah, there we go. Cool. So because this is still meant to be stylized, how much is it? I think it depends on whether you go with student or not. And they had different tiers depending on the packages. So some are more expensive than others, but the base I think is like $20. I'm not sure. I can't remember. Or it could be more than that. It's actually gone up in price recently since the acquisition. I can't really quite remember. So because she's a stylized kind of glass, kind of want to give her some freckles. Don't worry, I'll turn down the color a little bit. A month, yeah, a month. There's no permanent subscriptions anymore. They got rid of them, which sucks. Gotta admit. So yeah, let's go add that. Let's add a little bit more color. I'm gonna do another stylized freckle. And then 1, 2, 3. There we go. That was cool. So this is what I mean by like stylizing the texture to give it a bit more, just a bit more personality. So here, it's a bit tricky. Let's just do the ear. So let's just block this out. Yeah, it's a real pain. It's actually quite frustrating, especially as a professional as well. You're paying so much money for every kind of software under the sun. So I pay for Maya, I pay for Substance, I pay for Adobe products, you name it. So I'm just trying to stylize those ears a little bit. And I know I'd wrap up at 10, but I'll just give it a few more minutes just to show you what I mean with this texture. There we go. So you can see that's looking a lot better now already. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It empowers those who, don't have the opportunity to pay for those sort of things. It's a really empowering software. Whereas, something like Maya, it's sort of like you feel hopeless in a way that you'll ever be able to get to that point where you can actually afford to use it legally, at least. And usually, you don't pay for it. The company that you work for pays for it. So there's that as well. There is. You can hold down Shift and it will draw a line. So as long as you have it selected, you can draw a line like so. So like that. You can see it has some options there. I like to freehand because I want to keep it natural. I want it to actually look a little bit more drawn. I don't want it to look too perfect. And because I'm using a tablet, I can just use the lazy brush and then just smooth it out like that too. There's the example there. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Sick. Nice. That looks pretty sweet. And what we can do is probably add, using this, a little bit of color. Not that I know of, honestly. I have no idea. There we go. A little bit of that going on. A little bit of purpley shadow around those ears. And what I can do is just add a little bit there too. And then use this paint tool to brush it away. Let's go ahead and use a black brush in this case. So I'm just going to blend that out like so. All right, sick. I might be able to blur that out with a little bit of, I'm going to use a little bit of smudging for this part here, just to give it a bit of softness. Soften that out a little bit, and then, yeah, got ourselves a little painterly, little fake ear. Shadow it. And I can just, ooh. I might actually just use the eraser tool to bring down the opacity on that area there. Oops. Let's use a larger brush with a low opacity. Let's try and get that looking a bit more subtle. There we go. Cool. So before we wrap up, I might just give you a quick little preview of how this will look once we get into 3D and why it's important to texture it, even if you're going with stylization like this, because it really is important. I'm not done with the texturing. I'm going to continue later on, but I'm going to save that. Let's export some textures. Let's go ahead and export these textures. I'm going to go just with the eyes, for the face for now. Let's just go with the face and the hair. Let's go with let's just go with those for now. export out to the right folder. Oh, thank you. Let's see. F drive, black curtain, production, Blender, characters, Eevee. Let's go with textures, substance, or text. I'm just going to put this in a new folder. Substance. 2. Oh, no, my pleasure. I'm glad they're working out so well for you. All right, cool. Let's just go and export those out. Cool. So what we can do is jump back into Blender. Let's turn on the render preview. And let that load in. Let's remove the checker texture from the hair. Let's start off with the hair actually, just to show you what I mean. And we're going to turn off the selection preview. So you can see here it looks nice, but it's kind of plain, right? Looks a bit plain. And if you're going for that style, that's cool too. But sometimes you just need to add a little bit of texture, even on the flattest of material of styles. So let's go ahead and add the hair texture, for instance. So under Eevee, let's go to substance. Did I put it in the right folder? I probably did not. Texture, yep. So substance 02. There's a hair. Let's go ahead and add the hair. And you can see already how much nicer that looks. How crazy is that? Now, if we want to give it a real bit of coolness, cool factor, we can add a normal map. Oops, wrong one. Let's go ahead and add that normal map. New texture. And there's normal OpenGL. Set it to non-color. Let's get rid of this shit. And if we add a normal map now, and add it to my normal input on my shader, we're going to get some really cool result, I reckon. So once we start to add the shadow opacity, so there's a shadow opacity and specular opacity. See how the bump maps are now taking on that color? Yeah, that's my own custom shader. Yep. So now if we go ahead and let's pump up the shadow. Let's give the shadow color a darker color. Let's get the shadow expansion going on like that. You can see the shadow taking place there. You can see the color come through. And suddenly we have a very dynamic, very cool effect with the hair. And if I want to bump up that specular, let's just go and make it a bit more. We can make it subtle. I'm going to keep it subtle. Change the color. Maybe make it pink. So you're doubling up on style, basically. That's the cool thing about this whole setup. And let's just do an example of the face now. So let's just delete all this crap. And let's add the texture from the face. So let's go with input. And I don't need to worry about bump maps or anything like that right now. It's just straight up color. And look at the difference. The difference is night and day. How cool is that? And with a little bit of specular, on top. We can change the expansion, give it a sharper edge on the highlights. Suddenly she looks completely different, but in a really good way, in a really nice way. You know what I mean? Just by adding a little bit of contouring, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, it really makes a difference. So I'll probably keep on working on this after the stream or whatever. But I'm going to get some hair fuzz going on there to try and get her to look like she's shaved her head on the sides. I'm going to maybe add a little bit of contouring on her lips. But in the end, she looks so much nicer, put it that way, in my opinion. She looks amazing. So that's the plan. That's what I'm going to be doing for, the next week or so. Getting the polish up on all my stuff and then start working on that. And if I wanted to, you can always change. If I don't want highlights on the ears, for instance, I can remove that or whatever. But on the shadow, we can actually change the shadow expansion and get that effect, which is really cool. So yeah, lots of different things we can do here. I'm always a fan of the half tone on her face, but and her eyes. I'll get that in there as well. But yeah, that's it for now. Thank you very much. We're going to wrap it up there. I'll be back probably on Wednesday to go do another extended stream. Hopefully an extended stream. We'll see how we go. And yeah, we'll continue from there. Hoping to get some really big progress in the next couple of days and weeks. I've got to fix up that back there as well. But yeah, cheers. Thank you very much for watching. And I'll show you how to clean this up in Blender as well. These little seams. You can see the seams are showing there. But yeah, catch you guys later. Thanks.